Hello, I am absolutely buzzing for this episode to feature, spotlight, introduce you to this woman. It kind of feels like no amount or no type of intro, no matter how powerful, would be strong enough to describe who she is, what she does, and what an incredible human being this is. So, as promised, I want to, on this podcast, spotlight and introduce you to guests that help you on your journey, that have helped me on mine and continue to. So I'm going to introduce you to Rebecca Haydon. Rebecca is a subconscious business mentor. She is the subconscious expert. She is a combination of sunshine, NLP, business, life, joy, and kindness, all like rolled into one. But welcome, Rebecca. I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm so excited.
And start us off, Beck. Tell us what you do and why you do it.
I like the why. Yeah. Okay. So I help female entrepreneurs break through their next level, and that is predominantly through subconscious work. So I use NLP and hypnotherapy. I'm a master practitioner in both and have been doing it now for 6 years, which blows my actual mind. But I really help you in your business where you've got into that kind of ceiling, that stuckness, that plateau, that stagnancy, to break through that next level from a subconscious point of view, and then refine your strategy to kind of move you into that, whether it be income, visibility, whatever that looks like for you, move you into that. And the why behind it, I really love the subconscious, and I actually started doing all of the subconscious work, kind of NLP, hypnotherapy, before I even knew the entrepreneur space existed, which I know is usually kind of not the way that people do it, but I did all my qualifications first and then kind of fell upon the online space over COVID. And my why behind this is I just see so many people stuck for so long, and I think I have the tools and the techniques and the ability to help you become unstuck and do the things you want to do and be the person that you want to be. And that always drives my why, because I think life is too short to be stuck or stagnant or unhappy or whatever you're going through. And I think having the tools that I can teach you to get out of that, for me, will forever be my mission and my purpose in whatever place you are.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I mean, from my perspective, the tools that I now have, having worked with you and continuing to work with you, it's invaluable, and not just in business, but actually in life. And I feel like our journey together, it wasn't just business. It was almost, it was almost life more than business, actually. And it was a focus that I didn't know I needed. And I'm sure so many other entrepreneurs come to you and are the same. I feel like we, especially as women, are trying to do things the way that the playbook has kind of been created. Like, this is the script, follow it. These are the rules, follow it. This is the strategy, this is the process, this is the framework. If you do this, you'll get this.
Yeah.
And it's just not that simple, because we're all playing on the same field with different setups. Like, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this morning. Like, if my partner showed up for a football match, he would be prepared for the football match. If I show up and I'm riding a horse, like, I'm just not prepared for the game. No matter how you tell me to then play the game, I just cannot approach it in the same way. And it's a really wild, strange image that came to my head. But what is the number one, or what are the top things that you find when you work with, powerhouse women? Like, you work with some incredible entrepreneurs. Nobody comes to you and is like, at the bottom of the pile. However, sometimes we view ourselves in that way, or we feel like that way. That's sort of our perception. So what's your I guess what am I trying to ask? Like, what's the top thing people come to you with that they think they want or need, but actually you see beyond, and you see they actually do need?
I think a lot of people come to me with the surface level problem of procrastination and not doing the thing, like a lot of us, because that's so external for us, and we sit there and we go, for God's sake, like another day is finished and I haven't done the things that I needed to do in the business, and I'm still not doing the things that I know that I should be doing. And I think it comes from this like sheer frustration, because the women that I work with are really, really high achievers, powerhouses, want the best, want the book deal, want the stage, want the screen, want, like, they're in that space, and they're in that, they dream about that, and they can see that. Like a lot of, all of my clients believe really deep down that they can be that, or that they really truly want that, but then their actions and their behaviors are like not matching that, and that's what they kind of then focus on. And it's like, oh well, I'm not following through, or it's another Monday and I'm still doing the same thing. Whereas actually a lot of the time that is that's how it's showing up, but at a very surface level, a very deeper level than the surface that they kind of come to me with. It's those really deep rooted beliefs of I'm not good enough, or this will never happen for me, or all of those kind of deep rooted beliefs, which a lot of, again, high achievers, high performers take on, because a lot of the time we have been the kind of first daughter who needs to get everything right, and or we've been the person who always wants to be in that competitiveness and maybe not got there. And there's a lot of those that kind of goes back to those times. And so many of my clients come to me and they're like, wow, okay, it is way more than me just sitting at the laptop, isn't it? That's the problem. And I'm like, yes, and not even a problem. It's just what you've taken on subconsciously that's holding you back. And I think that's where I get the most joy in the work that I do, because like you said, it has such an impact on everything. I always say, I even had a client this week that's like, oh my God, this is not business related at all. And I'm like, it isn't, but it is, because everything has a knock-on effect. Everything is a domino. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So it is going to have an effect on your business. And I think that's the power behind it, the work that I do. Did that answer?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I very much used to segment my life.
Yeah.
And I'd say now it's maybe more pockets than sort of it portioned out. I mean, I saw it like and I would be like, this is this, and this is this, and this is, and it's just so interesting to be like, oh, this is what my problem is. I'm going to go to Beck because this is my issue. Yeah. And then you sort of show up with your imaginary shovel, and you're like, okay,
literally,
talk to me, what is the problem? And there you are, like, digging, because it's never what it appears, and it's never as simple or as easy. I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times on the membership calls where there's always at least one person on every single monthly call that says, oh, it's just a quick one. It's never a quick ever. Because you're right, nothing is ever surface level. It's always so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's makes me chuckle every time. And I mean, there's a sort of a new thought that I've been having and questioning recently. It's like, does life give you what you want, or does life give you what you need? Like what you need to learn. I know there's something that I've heard you say, and is definitely said in the personal development space, which is that life happens for you instead of happening to you. And actually, I wonder whether the next layer of that is life gives you what you need. It gives you what you need now. It doesn't just hand you what you want.
Yeah, a need to learn. And I think that's like, you know, a lot of people come to do the subconscious work and they think, you know, oh, that's the 3 months and we finish, or that's the 6 months and then that's done and then my subconscious is healed and I'm good. Unfortunately not the case, but like that's what I quite like about the subconscious. You know, I've been doing this work for over 6 years now, deeply on myself, and that kind of mainly came from how awful the performing arts industry was to me. At that time it felt like it was to me, and I know you could definitely resonate with that, but you know, I still find things, I'm still unlocking things, I'm still working on myself. And actually I say to my clients, like, you're not coming here to be fully like, oh, I'm done, like subconscious tick, now we can move on. Actually, you're coming to learn to how to deal with things that come up, how your brain behaves, the neuroscience behind everything, and really understand it so you can bounce back quicker, etc. So there are, you know, there are going to be crappy times, there are going to be challenging times, there are going to be tougher times regardless, because that's life and that's the human experience. But it's actually how, you know, for me more than anything, it's how you deal and how you get curious and how you show up to that either means you stay in it or you move through it quicker. And that for me is like the biggest kind of bit that I can hand over to clients.
I think we learn something as well, don't we, from every single thing that happens and the way we choose to deal with it in that moment.
Yeah.
Like it's a lesson if it's not, you know, there's a quote I heard from Ed Sheeran, and he said that you don't learn anything from success.
No.
Which is why, like personally, I quite enjoy failing, because it means you learn something. Like, and I think that's something that recently I've been going through since being in Australia. Like, and I've felt this every time I've achieved like a big dream. I'm like, great, I'm here. What next? Now what? Or like, this is what is meant to feel like, but now I don't have this.
Yeah.
Like you're just missing something. I mean, you can probably make sense of that. What is there any sense behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not wired to be in success. We're wired to be in survival. So like as a mechanism in our brain, like we are wired to look for threats, for gaps. And immediately when you get into that, you know, when you get into that space of like, oh my God, I've done it, like here we are, your subconscious then goes, okay, what's the gap in this bit? What's the gap in this place? What's the gap in this place? So you never truly, and this is why I always say to my clients, like, when I have this, then I'll feel that. It never freaking comes, and I can promise you, because there's been so many things that I've had or achieved and wanted, and it never brought the feeling. And that's because your subconscious is naturally wired to go, okay, done, next, like thank you, next, literally the song. And you know, like it's wired to look for those gaps, so it will naturally look for the gaps anyway, whether you consciously know that you're doing it or not. And that's your brain, that's how our brain is wired. So that's, I think, sometimes why a lot of the success that we get can then feel quite neutral. And like a lot of people say, like, make your goals feel quite neutral before you get them, and then you won't feel like, you know, like it can feel like that. But I think we naturally never want to stop growing, never want to stop being better, learning. You know, we're very wired to, and the society that we live in has wired us to be like, you know, we keep on growing and we keep on learning, and you know, you go through school and you learn and you learn and you learn, and you know, we're going to naturally look for the next time. I've never known anyone who's got the goal that they really wanted to get and gone, okay, done for life, call me quits, kill me off, I am finished. Like, it's never going to happen. So putting all this emphasis on this one big thing, and I see so many people doing this with the money months and the hitting a certain milestone in your business, you're going to get there and then there's going to be another goalpost that you create anyway. So that, you know, for me, I'm like, if we know that that's naturally going to happen, should we start enjoying the journey? Like, should we actually stop putting so much pressure on this end point that's never the end, and actually just enjoy the process, which is harder said than done.
Yeah, that makes so much sense though, doesn't it? And it's sort of, I guess, enjoying the process whilst also having a direction and like a purpose in the future. It's kind of and I know this is something you've been doing, like, you know, massively. You're on like a gym and health like
hiatus.
Yes. So, like, you'll get that, but like when you're in the gym or you're like doing like a specific exercise, you have to be present in that moment. Like, you can't be thinking about, oh, how is it, you know, about lifting, I don't know, a heavier weight, or about what you're doing tomorrow. Like, you have to be present and in that moment. But when you're in the gym and you're working on your body or your health or whatever, you are kind of, you're thinking ahead, aren't you? You're doing it for future you and in that direction. You've got to be in the moment.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's where a lot of people, like, if we kind of take that metaphor and put it into business, that's where a lot of people struggle, because in the gym, you almost get that instant gratification. So you've lifted the weight and you've put the weight down and you're like, oh my God, or like hit the PB, or you feel that, like, you know, you've just lifted the heaviest deadlift that you've done, and you kind of get that instant gratification. Where in business, we don't very often get instant gratification. And I think as high achievers, as I know I keep kind of using that word, but I do work with a lot of high achiever type women. When we don't get that instant gratification, what I see from a subconscious level is then you start making up stories about yourself that, you know, this hasn't worked because this hasn't landed because and I think a lot of the time when we are in business and we're doing something that we're so passionate about, we then take it on as us rather than the business. And I think really like detaching from that and being okay with not having instant gratification, which then leads back to validation. And we can go into all of that if needs be, but like, it's that being able to be on that journey and not receive that all the time. I think that's one of the biggest things that's helped me, because I am probably the most consistent person, like not the most consistent person in the world, but I am very fucking consistent. Like, and I have like, even if I take my podcast, for example, that launched in 2020, and I have recorded a podcast and put one out every Tuesday for the last 5 years, minus like the 2-week break that I had when I broke up my life and moved back from Australia. And I had to show up even in the moments that no one was watching or no one was listening, and carry on. And that consistency and the compound and the momentum then builds. And I think so many people stop from that because they don't get the instant gratification, and then make it a story about themselves. And I know you're incredible at this. You show up like day, night, sunshine, rain, you know, whatever. And I think to have that power behind you is just so beautiful to see, like from me, to see you show up in that way as well. That was kind of a very long-winded conversation, but yeah.
Do you think there's a way that you can give yourself those kind of, I mean, as you well know, and as you kind of just said, like, I'm definitely not somebody that needs someone to say that, yeah, you're doing really well, carry on doing it. Like, I've got my own back, very, very much so, because when I grew up, everything was neutral. Everything was like mellow yellow, like, great, okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, great, go for it. Like, complete, you know, I remember booking my first job as a performer out of college, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I went and I told my mum and dad, and they literally were like, oh, well done, that's nice. And like, I wasn't shocked, not even a little bit, but the friend I was with, she was looking between them and me like it was a tennis match. She was so confused as to why they weren't more excited, but it's just always been that way. So if I want to do something, if I, you know, achieve something, or if I am working towards something, like it's all got to come from me. Like I've got to be my own cheerleader. But it can be hard on the journey when you're not seeing like any results, and you don't have that level of self-belief or self-trust or self-commitment. How do you build up that belief in yourself without needing external validation? There must be a way.
Yeah, I think first of all, going back to and understanding what you need it for, you know, what that external validation is for. Is it so that you believe in yourself? Is it so that you carry on? You know, like, what are you seeking that out for? I think kind of starting with that question first, because then we can kind of understand how we then give it to ourselves. Because, like, you know, in business, we do have to seek validation of some kind, because we need data, we need to understand if things aren't working, we do need to change, but from like a more of a curiosity place, which I really work with my clients. You know, a lot of the time we can make business decisions from very like emotion-led, belief-led, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to blow it all up. This isn't working, like, and it's coming from this real kind of like belief, like lack space. But sometimes we do need to have a look and be like, okay, this isn't working. Let me get curious. Like, what is it? What do I need to do? What can I rectify? So I think from like the need for this external validation all the time, I think looking at why that's happening and what is it that's happening there. And like I said, like, is it to believe in yourself, which, you know, for me, it was very much that. And I think because, you know, from my history, looking back in my subconscious, in the performing arts world, you were, you know, I was going to 6 or 7 auditions a week and getting rejected from every single one of them, being told that I was too fat, too this, too that, you know, like, so of course I didn't believe in myself. Like, of course I didn't. And actually, like, that was the first work that I really, really did, because I was like, I am very good at being rejected. I'm very, very good at being rejected because it's happened so often. But also that rejection has now made me believe that I'm not good enough, that it's me, when actually it wasn't me at all. It was the industry, their opinions and their map of the world. And the more I then believed in myself, the more I could carry on showing up. And I think going back to your purpose and your mission and your why, and I think that's really, you know, where you stand. You're so passionate about what you do and how you do it and what you've got to give the world, the same as me, is that belief will carry me through that. Like, whether I do believe in myself in the moment or not, I'm going to carry on showing up, because there's no option here. Like, I believe in this, so I believe in this cause, or believe what I'm doing so much that will carry me. So first of all, having a look at where the external validation is coming from, and then almost like the gym, a little muscle, like, you have to keep just flexing that muscle. You know, how can I believe in myself a little bit more today? If I showed up for myself again today with stories, like, can I start like just compounding that belief, and what little actions, those micro actions, can I do to really build that? And I think kind of having those two in tandem start to then detach you from looking externally all the time anyway.
It's kind of almost, I guess, like putting the blinkers up, but allowing yourself times to like just let the blinkers open again, because you're not used to having the blinkers on all the time.
No, of course not. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned a moment ago about something I wanted to jump back on. You mentioned that our subconscious is always looking for threats or gaps, or that's just the way it's naturally wired. However, there is a way that you can bring the things, you know, that you want in your life, isn't there? There's a way that you can bring things in and tune your awareness, I guess, and your attention to what you want.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I love that it's called the Raz for sure.
Yeah.
And I had to do Raz with jazz. It's the stage in me.
It has to be.
It's the dancer. Tell us about the Raz and how it can help us.
Yeah, so the RAS is short for the reticular activated system, which is a little kind of sits in the back of our head. And basically the quote, "What you focus on is what you get," is the very, very quick fire version of what the RAS is. And that's why the RAS can be our very worst enemy, because if we're focusing on the things that we don't want, we 9 times out of 10 bring more of those things in. And if we focus on what we do want, we start seeing different things or seeing it in a different way. Or, a lot of the time we have opportunities right here, but you've told your RAS to look for all the things that aren't working. So it kind of is like, oh, and sometimes when we've done this work with clients, my client will be like, has that been staring me in the face for like this long? And I'm like, yes, we just haven't been looking for it. So you can program, to be honest, the reticular activated system is what manifestation is. And I never really use that word because I'm way more on the neuroscience, less on I hate calling it the woo-woo side, but it kind of makes sense for people. But, it's what do you want to literally pop into your RAS. We take on as humans so much information at one time. So like right now, I'm seeing you, the green, the chair, the what's outside the window, my coffee, my foot, like there's so much going on. And we can't physically take all of that information on. So what our RAS does is it generalizes, it filters, it distorts, and it basically takes on what we choose to see, what we choose to believe, what we choose to want, which is why it's so connected to the subconscious. So if you kind of go around being like, well, I'm not good enough, then your RAS goes, right, guys, we've got to find all the evidence to prove that she's not good enough today. So you look at your story views and you're like, oh, well, they're down, aren't they? It's because I'm not good enough. You look at the person that you've just messaged who might have been a potential client and they haven't replied, or they've read the message and they haven't replied. And you start to like kind of spiral into this. Whereas when we program some better glasses and we walk around with, I am good enough, your RAS goes, okay, guys, let's get all of that evidence to prove that she is good enough. So it literally is, what are you programming every day? And that comes from your subconscious. The RAS for me, I mean, it was the very first thing that I learned, and it was still to this day blows my mind that we actually have the opportunity to tell our subconscious what to look for and how to look for it. And the more you work with it, the more opportunities happen and things come, and it feels quite magical sometimes when you're really in tune. When you're really in tune with it, it's crazy, like
I was
the
about to say that.
opportunities and things that happen, isn't it?
Yeah, like it makes you believe in magic, that magic
Like the universe, and like it's always got you, and like there's just, and I think in business as well, because we don't have that like manager above us or the CEO above us, like we are our own, or all of those. I think when you don't have that person to go, am I doing a good job? Like, are we on the right track? Actually using the RAS to go, okay, like bring me a bit of evidence today to show me this, or let's look for a sign on this. It's just like something higher than you that can just go, we're okay, like we're on the right path, or whatever that looks like. It's quite fun to play some games with it.
Focus is the direction of your ship. There's a quote that Tony Robbins says that I love, where your focus goes, energy flows.
Exactly that. Exactly. Yeah, that is the RAS. So yeah, depending on which way you use it, it can be enemy or best friend.
Yeah. What you're looking for, you will find.
Yeah, literally. Like if you're looking to prove that you've got no money, you will find more evidence to prove that. And I know that's, it's hard when you're in that, but it literally, it just perpetuates.
So if you are in a place of like, I feel like I'm meant to do all these incredible things, I'm meant to be on stage, I'm meant to write the book, I'm meant to have a business that literally allows me to not worry about money ever again, support my family, etc. But you are in a place where you're like, I'm not getting the things done, I've got like a mile-long to-do list, What should I be pointing my Raz at to get out of this, like this? I almost feel like people like us don't even like to use the words like struggle and
No.
stuck, but ultimately you've got to say it for what it is, right? And then sort of let go of that, because if you can't describe, I know I did
Acknowledge it,
when we first started working together, I was sort of avoiding words. And you were like, Gemma, what are you actually, just say what you're actually thinking and saying. Make sense of it. So if you're in that place where you don't even want to say that you're like stuck or you're struggling, and you know there's so much more for you, you're kind of stuck in the mud a little bit, the quicksand. How do you focus when it's not actually around you or happening for you right in this moment?
I have been here many, many times, many, many times. And I think it kind of goes back to a move forward for you in any direction is going to lead you somewhere. And like for me, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit of my story before I go into like the logistics of subconscious, but I've had a picture on my vision board for, I would probably say 5 years now. And it is the film The Intern, which is Anne Hathaway. I don't know whether you've ever watched it, but it's like one of my favorite films. And she like grows this fashion business on there, and she has this office, and it's got like floor to ceiling black windows, and she drives this bike in the like around the office, and she's like CEO, boss, like knows what she wants, etc. And I watched that film, and I remember being so like activated by that film and being like I just see myself in that. I can't understand what it is, how it looks, like who that is. I'm not sure, but I'll pop it on my vision board. And the thing with that is that the answers didn't come until this year. So that was on my vision board since 2020. And actually it only dropped in 2024. And the moment that it dropped in was the NLP school. And I was like, this now makes sense. Like, this is actually what it now looks like. And that picture now makes sense. But if I hadn't kept showing up for myself in whatever fashion it was back then, I wouldn't have got to this place to find the answer of what that looked like. And actually, I think more than anything is if you have that drive, and look, if you don't have that drive and you don't have the purpose and the passion behind it, it probably will be easy to not carry on. But I think if you have that behind you at any given moment, to keep showing up, to keep trying different ways, to keep getting curious, to keep going, oh, okay, that didn't quite land, that didn't quite work. Oh God, okay, we go again. And to keep doing that. And sometimes it might take you 5 years. You know, it took me 4 years to really understand what that picture was about. And I'm sure there's other things on there at the moment that I have no clue how they're going to drop in. But actually, the more you can show up for yourself, the more it starts to unravel. And I think for me, that was just a powerful moment where I went, wow, if 4 years ago Beck saw that picture and was like, we'll never achieve that. There's like, what would that look like? What would that even be? I wouldn't have kept, and like I wasn't consciously searching for it. It just kind of like one day I was like, that's it. Like it like literally just dropped in. So I think if you're in the stage where you're taking action and you're showing up and things aren't working, dig a bit deeper, because it like you never know. And I think this is again the power of the universe. Like you never know tomorrow, the next day, what could happen, who you could meet, what could come in. And like I've had so many instances of that where I've met, you know, I signed a client once by talking about tea bags, you know, like I didn't fucking know that client was going to sign from me having a conversation in a coffee shop about tea bags, but she did. And like I think there's so much magic in life sometimes that we can, when things aren't working, we do become cynical and you do become in that, but then that just, again, like the Raz just perpetuates more. So it's like, how can I find the magic in this really horrible space right now? But there's got to be something, and like just keep with that. I know that sounds a little bit hard to grasp and hold on to maybe when you're in it, and I think I probably gone, thank you, Rebecca, for that. Whilst I was listening to. Here we go. But like, you know, it is true when you look at the subconscious, it's like, what are you feeding your brain? And okay, you can choose to stay there. I could choose to have stayed stuck in 2020. I could choose to have stayed in my struggling coach story. And I've talked about this a lot, but one day I was like, right, well, we can stay in this and it'll just stay like this, or I can fucking choose something else. And I like really, I remember waking up and being like, I'm embodying that I'm this multi-six-figure business owner, and this is how I show up. And honestly, like, the rest is history in my business. And so many people asked what I'd done differently. And the only answer that I could give them was like, I'm embodying what I'm selling, basically. And it was just so powerful. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Yeah, it's so one of those things, isn't it? Like I think that's the hardest lesson to learn as an adult, that you are fully responsible.
Yeah.
Everything. That you have to take responsibility. Like, and even like, you know, I think there are times that I look back on now that I'm like, oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Pointing the blame at somebody else. But ultimately, like, you were making the choices, Gemma. Like, you were the one that chose that day, or you chose to feel a certain way. And you know, I know something you talk about a lot is state as well, like getting into the right state, because you cannot be negative if you're like, I don't know, jumping and dancing around your kitchen to the Spice Girls. Like, if you are, then you're not jumping around, dancing around, having the time of your life. And I think that's why so much of my, you know, every time I get lost or distracted or off my path, ultimately it always comes back down to having the time of my life.
Yes.
Like, what do I need to do to have the time of my life
today?
And that it's like, it just redirects you and puts you back in like the right place. And I think when you know what things, you know, I have my toolkit of the things that I have and do, and singing and dancing is one of those things, or two of those things. Like knowing like what's my happy list, or like what's my state shifting list. Do you have anything like that? Like any go-to?
Music for me, hands down, is like, the way that music makes me feel. And again, you know, the performers in us, like dancing music, like it can shift a state instantly for me, like instantly, with a good piece of music or a dance in the kitchen, or, you know, anything that gets my body involved as well. Because I think it was just, again, it's such a passion. It still is a passion. I know, like, I have trauma from the industry, which I just shoved in a box and maybe I'll work on one day. But like, it's, you know, for me, it just gets me so emotional, so moved. Like, I have my little higher self tracks that move me in a certain way. I have, like, you know, the whole of my NLP school brand is built from a song. Like, I heard a song and I was like, this is it, this is the brand, like this song is the brand. So yeah, those are two very big state shifters for me, more so than visualization, hypnosis, timeline therapy, to be honest. Sometimes I think there's, I mean, obviously it's what I do, there's a time and a place for those, but I think if you wanted to get yourself out, and I know, like, there might be people listening to us right now that's like, but how do I get myself out? Like, and you know, again, I have really been there, and I used to get off on being moody, got off on being in a mood or struggling. Like, I kind of liked it because I was getting attention, I was getting something from it. And I talk about this all the time, you know, if you are stuck in that kind of like struggle train, you're getting something from it. So understand what you're getting from it first, because then you can seek it in a different way and make it, you know, create it in a different state, and then you can move into it. But yeah, you really, at the end of the day, and I always kind of really remember this when it comes to any of my clients, you know, it's the same as hiring a PT. They're not walking you into the gym, they're not doing the exercises for you, they're not putting the food into your mouth. Like, you have to do that if you want to create the results that you want. And it's the same with the subconscious. You know, I can do things in session with my clients and I can talk to them outside of session, but it's really what they do outside of that, it's the other 23 hours that they're there holding themselves accountable. And subconscious work is uncomfortable, as you know, and it is like, it is, you have to be so conscious at it, because it's so easy to go back to the old stories that you used to play. It still, to this day, it's very easy for me to fall into struggle street, because I just used to do it so much. I spent most of my performing life in, I call it victim. I know some people don't resonate with that, but that was kind of like the part that I named it. But you know, I spent most of my time, and I look back and now, and I'm like, Beck, no fucking wonder we didn't do what we wanted to do, because that's how we were showing up. And like, I give love to that. And I would love to, like, I don't know, even have another go now, in knowing what I know now, you know, going into the industry again. But I think, like, ultimately you are choosing. I love that phrase, what you're not changing, you're choosing. And that's it. That's what it is.
I think that, hit the nail on the head with that. It's so, it's funny, as soon as you said about, you know, it is uncomfortable, you know, that the moment that like jumped back into my head was, I think, one of the biggest, I feel like, I mean, personally, I had a lot of breakthrough moments. I still continue to, because I think where I have that knowledge now. And I'm sure every single client you've ever worked with, and you yourself, having continually worked on your own subconscious and mindset and business and life and who you are and everything, there's one moment for me that I think I will remember so vividly, like forever, which is when we discovered resistance.
Yeah, I have goosebumps still from it to this day. And I can see the screen, I can see your background, I can see everything about that moment in my head.
I see, I mean, it's so wild that you can literally almost have been taken over by something that isn't fully you for so long, and you not have any idea.
Absolute idea, I know. Yeah.
Like, not a Scooby-Doo. Is there a moment for you in your journey that's like of personal development that stood out?
Oh yeah. That, and it was victim for me. The moment that I found that out, and I remember exactly where I was sitting. Like, I can go back to that, like it was my office in Australia. I got my legs up on the desk, like I used to have like a bar underneath the desk. I got my legs up on the desk, and I was looking out, and it was the moment that I realized that it was all kind of wrapped in money. And I was like, what is stopping me from making, like, I cannot understand. Like, I was in that, like, I'm doing everything. I was in that. Like, I was like, I'm doing everything. Like, why isn't it working? Like, I was in that. And it was the moment that dropped in that was like, I'm not making money because it feels safer to keep running to my mom to ask her for help. And I'm getting attention from it. And like, I just remember, like, it makes me feel like, even when I say it now, because it was that big in my body that I was like, I'm doing that. Like, I'm actually stopping myself from creating a successful business because I get love and attention when I need. Like, I was just like, you know, that gif that's like with all the like weird science things behind you, and I just couldn't believe that my actions were playing that out, and that was where it was coming from. And then everything made sense. You know, that was really when I found my victim part. And it, like I said, like, it makes sense in performing, it makes sense with relationships, it made sense across the board. And that for me, and knowing that, and then working with that since, has been crazy. Because, you know, even now sometimes my victim part will come back in and like knock on the door and be like, it's been a couple of months, can I come on in? And I'm like, okay. You know, and I have to do a bit more work on it. Or there's another part that's come in, you know, a huge part. I was doing some work last week, and a huge part came through, one that I've never ever heard of before or worked with before, and most of it has come from having Ivy. And I was like, who's my daughter, and I was doing the work, and I was like, whoa, like, this all makes sense now. Like, it was like that, of course, this makes sense. And I think those moments where you can almost, I think for you as well, you felt this where you're like, it's not me. Like,
Yeah.
like it's a part of me, of course, but like it's not me entirely. And when you detach from that, you go, now I can do something about it. Like now I can move
Yeah.
through it. Now I can question and talk to it and, do all those things. And it immediately lightened in that moment when I found that part. I immediately felt like, okay, can do something with it now. Like, what do we need to do? And kind of get proactive. But yeah, those are two. I mean, the moment last week was huge, but that moment in Australia, finding kind of my victim part and why I play that and what that looked like for me, changed the game.
Yeah.
Changed the game.
Yeah. They are, it is mind blowing, those moments. And I think, and unless you've done it and you've been through it, and this is why, like, I would recommend it to anyone to do this work, because you may well have, and you probably do have, like an invisible barrier that you're trying to get past, and you're like, why am I not getting to this next point, or why am I not, speaking on a bigger stage? Why am I not performing on a bigger stage? Why am I not building my business to this amount per month? Like, she's doing it, why can't I do it? Like, I'm no less, I'm equipped, I'm experienced, I'm all the things. Why is it not happening? Like, I would almost put every single ounce of my being on the fact that it's probably like there is something holding you back that you have no idea even exists.
No. And it's crazy when you find it.
That is like the power of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It blows my mind. And that's why, like, I love that you've got the Subconcious membership as well, which anyone listening, I mean, I will tag and link various things in the show notes, but I wouldn't even hesitate to jump in there and just start exploring it, because the moment you start exploring it, it's creating that awareness where you then are like, oh, maybe this is why I'm not doing this thing in my business, or maybe that's why I've been stuck at this point or this level, or I feel like I've hit a ceiling. Like that, it all kind of, it's like you lay everything out on the table, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. And then to be able to see it then allows you to then be able to do something with it. Like we said, it gives you like understanding, curiosity, permission, all of those things to move through it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's so powerful. So before we like kind of wrap this up, I would love to hear a bit more about, or can we talk about, I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times, but can you share more about the NLP school?
Yes, absolutely. When will this go out?
June.
Okay.
Middle of June.
Okay, I'll be just in launch then, so I'll talk all about it. So it is called the Subconcious Institute. We are now trademarked, which I love. And basically, I did my NLP practitioner and masters back in 2019. So I have been in the NLP world, practicing NLP and doing NLP with my clients for a very long time. And I would say over the last, for those who don't know NLP, it's neuro-linguistic programming. So again, very like all of the subconscious work, your neurons, your language, and then we repattern it. And there's lots of tools and techniques and language and hypnotics and that we kind of use in it. And through the work that I do, I was having a lot of clients who would come and do mindset work with me and then go, wow, like I really love NLP and I want to bring this into my business. So they would go away, they would do their qualification, and a lot of them were still working with me at the time, and they'd come back to session and be like, I don't get it. I don't understand. The person was boring that was delivering it. Can we go through this technique? 'Cause it doesn't make sense the way that they taught it. And I was like, wow, like this was not the experience that I had. And I always think it's because I did all of mine in person, which I think is very different. But I was just like, I can't believe that people are having these experiences. And like by the 7th client, I was like, we need to listen to what's going on here. And that's kind of where it was born. Like, I was sitting in a coffee shop, I was messaging my best friend Jen, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I think I'm going to do this because it's something that no one's doing in the kind of industry that we're in at the moment, and I love doing something that no one else is doing. It's a passion of mine, and has been for a very long time. And it's so scalable and so powerful, and how many people can I teach who can then teach and have impact on their clients as well. So the journey began, and we're pretty much a year to the day that I was sitting in the coffee shop. I think like literally this week it's been a year since I got the trademark and all of that started, got the website and the name and everything. And yeah, we launch on the 17th of June. And then we've got a big launch party on the 20th at Soho House in London, because I was like, the brand and everything is very that ilk. And I'm basically here to disrupt the NLP world, because it is so stuck in the 90s, the corporate, the like white websites that's got too much information on it, that you're that confused, you don't know what you're signing up for. Like, and I was just like, no, like I've built a business, a very successful business, through using NLP. And I think one of the biggest things for me was when I actually look back to the cohort that I did all my training with, I think I'm the only person who has become full-time in their business and is still full-time in a coaching business using the qualifications. And that, to me, I'm like, there was 40, 50 people in some of the trainings that I did, and I'm probably 1 or 2% of people who are still using the qualification to create a life from. And I just think it's mad how they don't equip you to build a business with it, what to do with it, how to use it with your clients. So I'm changing the freaking game. That's
very exciting. So very exciting. I mean, there's 101 things I could talk to you about. I feel like I could sit here for 5 days and still continue, like longest podcast episode ever recorded in the history of the world. If there is one thing that you would want someone that's listening to take away from this conversation, what would it be?
I'm just feeling called to say you have the power. You have the power to change. You have the power to choose. You have the power to make it be different. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable to let go of the old habits and the old ways of doing things. But if you can push through that uncomfort, the other side is really fucking good, is what I would say.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to say everything you could possibly need with regards to Rebecca Haydon, with with the membership, with her work, with the school, everything will be in the show notes. So have a look, have a read. Undoubtedly, like, follow her, get in her world if you haven't already. And definitely go and check out the membership and anything else that you feel pulled into. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of you. I feel like every single new person I meet, I'm like, so this is coach I was working with. So dive in. I've loved having you on here. Thank you so much for giving your time, your energy, and your wisdom as well, like for the last 45 minutes.
That was so quick. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.